What's up, Moongoons? Welcome back to Horrible Horror Podcast, the podcast where we watch the worst of the worst in horror movies. Movies so bad we're scary. But today we actually have someone who is in a really good horror film. Today we have Glenn Ennis with us. He played Jason in Freddy vs. Jason. Glenn, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
Awesome. Welcome to the con. Welcome to St. Louis. Glad to have you here. So you played Jason Voorhees in Freddy vs. Jason. Specifically, you had the scene with the full body burn.
I did, yeah, the cornfield and on the dock, yeah.
So the full body burn, I am blown away by that scene. That's one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I know you have a history as a stuntman. I know you've done work in Deadpool. You were Colossus in Deadpool. You also have a history of doing a lot of stunts. With the full body burn, because we watched a couple other movies with full body burns, what's going through your mind when that's happening?
You try to make it as little as possible going through your mind. You try to clear your head, because if you start thinking too much, you freak out. And, some people are very casual, but I'm terrified of fire. So I have to go in kind of like a zen state to keep from freaking out. And also the last, I hadn't done any stunt burns before as a stuntman before Freddy versus Jason. And the coordinator, right before they were locking me up and saying...
This was your first?
Oh, yeah.
This was your
first firework was a full body.
Yep.
Wow.
Terrified. And so the last thing the stunt coordinator would say to me every time before buttoning the mask on and covering me with gasoline, basically, was if you start to burn, don't run. Because the guys with the canisters to put you out, the fire extinguishers, they can't run very fast carrying those things.
Oh, shit.
So he would say that. And apparently sometimes, people freak out and you just lose your mind. You freak out and start running around. And then so that was one of the things that kind of tried to keep me, or went against keeping me calm when the time was coming. But yeah, it was, it was a lot to think about, and I tried to think about it as little as possible. I couldn't see, unfortunately. So I had to count steps and then kind of turn, and there was a guy in my head I had a microphone in my ear.
While you're on fire.
And he was watching on the monitor, letting me know, when I had to turn along the path, because I was basically blind.
Wow. So playing Jason, you were mentioning about getting into a zen-like state. I mean, he's kind of a, killing machine. Did you do any research into the actual character, watching the old Friday 13th movies, do anything to kind of get you in the zone?
Well, I already had, because I auditioned for the role of Jason anyways, right? So me and Ken Kersinger, our buddies, and we were auditioning, so we were in the same room waiting outside the door, before we had to go in door auditions, and we did that several times. So we'd already kind of researched what he was, and then we were also told by the director, what they were looking for in this one. There was a couple, subtle differences that they were looking for, and so I'd already sorted all that kind of stuff out. So applying that to when you're on fire was actually good, because he does move slowly and deliberately, and that's what I wanted to be doing at the time.
Yeah, there's no wasted movement with Jason.
Not much at all.
He's not like a shuck and jive. He doesn't move around too much. He doesn't try to distract. He's just straightforward.
You don't see him do more than the first slash most of the time. He usually takes just the one, and that does the job.
Right. So you mentioned also just kind of not thinking, just going with it, and doing a little bit of research on you. I noticed that you played rugby for the Canadian national team. And I was just wondering, by chance, did you know Eddie Evans?
Eddie Evans is a great friend of mine, yeah.
That blows my mind. I love that so much. I stayed in Bangkok for about almost a year. While I was there, I never played rugby, but my roommate was like, let's go play rugby. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll go play rugby. We play with this old boys squad. Everyone's 35 and up, and they're all guys who played rugby their entire life, from 5 years old up to 55. And Eddie Evans was on that team.
Yeah,
so,
he's a big name in international rugby.
Yeah,
he was a legendary prop forward for Canada, which is, if you don't know rugby much, he's the one that looks like a fire hydrant.
Oh,
and is built like a brick shithouse.
Yeah.
And tough as nails. And he was my roommate, actually, so we're really good pals. That's amazing that you met him in Bangkok and played some rugby.
It was so awesome, and he was such a cool guy. We got drunk together, had a lot of fun. I mean, he was a totally cool guy. So when I heard that, I was like, holy shit.
That's coincidence.
That's
awesome.
A weird little 6 degrees of Eddie Evans. So.
All right, let me chime in here, because there's a few other things I gotta know about the stunt.
All right, the rugby stuff's over. Okay.
No, it's totally cool. It's a great coincidence. Although one thing that's really cool about Glenn here at the con, he did bring with him I believe the actual machete, Jason machete from Freddy vs. Jason. It's at his table. People are able to hold it and take pictures with it. It's pretty cool. They brought the actual movie prop with them. Speaking of Freddy vs. Jason, so we talked about the full body burns a bit, and in the cornfield scenes. Were you in any did you in the big fight scenes with Freddy, or was that you as well? Or
that was me. Yeah, pretty much any time the Jason character was involved in action and fighting and stuff, it was me. Kenny did a lot of walking around, and I think with the stars, you know, when he actually got to stab somebody in the abdomen, and he did a couple of little action things. I don't want to talk down on his commitment to the actual stunt side because he's a stuntman. But yeah, anything that involved Jason falling down, that was me.
So
and that happened of smashing into things, that was me. You know, being on fire and any kind of jeopardy at all.
That
And if you look at that
scene,
movie, there was a lot of stuff. Like
yeah,
that.
I mean that fight scene at the end, is it's so much fun to watch. It's so cool.
The fight scene on the dock was really challenging for a few reasons, and one is that they wanted to do it practical from start to finish, and all the blood spray and stuff, the slashes that happened, they wanted to do them, you know, practically rather than chopping it up. That's a good one. So we actually had, like, I had about 9 different blood rigs on me in different places where I got slashed and blood would spray at the right time, and I had a hose for each one of those. So I had 9 hoses, and if you can imagine 9 hoses coming, they all kind of come together and come out my pant leg, and then go across the dock and into the water over to where they had this manifold where all the compressed air would blow them at the right time. And Doug Chapman, the Freddy double, had exactly the same thing. So we're both trying to do this dance where we're dragging around this big heavy leg and all these hoses that caught on stuff, and when they trip, and it was really, really challenging, but.
Wow, that's still really cool because that fight scene. I mean, everybody in the horror movie, if you is gonna love that, knows that fight scene, how great and iconic it is. But besides Freddy vs. Jason, like I said, we were Colossus and Deadpool, which that's awesome to me because I grew up a huge comic book fan. Colossus was always one of my favorite characters, and then. You were the bear in the Revenant, beating up Leonardo DiCaprio.
I have this gift for making a living without ever showing my face. I want you guys to tell your listeners right now how horrible my face is, and that's why
it's hideous. Like, I can barely look at him. Barely even look at this guy.
Burned by acid.
Yeah, Toxic Avengers. He's a Leonardo DiCaprio in comparison.
I'm very lucky. I make a career of having masks and things on my face.
Now I'm trying to keep my thoughts here on without getting too jumbled here. But forgive me. What I want to ask before I move into like some of the other works you've done is when it comes to stunt work, like everybody knows with actors, like even you said stuff, you went into audition for Jason as an actor, and the actor's going to audition. As a stuntman, do you audition as a stuntman, or is it like, are you part of like a stuntman union that says, okay, you're just assigned to this movie? How does that work when you go to movie with this as a stuntman?
You rarely audition as a stuntman, but though there are roles where they need stunt performers and they need to make sure they can act first. So in that regard, there is a stunt actor kind of an audition thing that happens sometimes. But for purely stunt roles, a stunt coordinator will pick you, and it's based on your look, your size and weight if you're doubling somebody, and your relationship with that stunt coordinator. So if a stunt coordinator is working on a certain movie and he doesn't know me, I just never met this guy, chances are I won't work on it. So it's all about the relationships you make over the course of your career, proving yourself in front of people. So you have to reach out and make those connections and get someone to like you, get someone to be able to vouch for you. Because essentially, if I go on a set and I do a crappy job, it looks bad on that coordinator. So he has to protect himself that way.
Makes sense.
And the integrity of his job. So he's only going to hire people he knows can do the job, and so it's kind of a catch-22. Getting started is tough, but once you get out there and everyone knows that you're good at what you do, then people will hire you sight unseen, because just based on your rep and on the word of other stunt coordinators.
That's cool. I was always interested in how that works. So speaking of like that catch-22, how did you decide or get into the stunt work? What led you to it?
My younger brother is a stuntman. He was a motorcycle racer, and that got him into it. And when I retired from rugby at the ripe old age of 36.
That's old in rugby years.
It was very old, yeah.
Sport years.
That sport kicks the crap out of you. I played around the world for a long time as a professional. And so I didn't know what to do at that time. And my brother said, well, you've been falling down for a living for a long time. Why don't you keep doing it? And I said, I'm 36. He said, but you're big. And there's not many big guys who know their body well enough to fall. And it just seemed like there was a niche that needed filling, and so I jumped in, and it worked out really well. I got a character face again. I had a bit of acting experience, so I pursued that a bit more. And that, a lot of times I'm too big to double an actor, so I'll be my own character, right? Even just as a simple stunt, I'm the guy who says stop or I'll shoot and then gets killed, or I'm a lot of SWAT team guys. I'm a lot of thugs, sheriffs, that kind of thing. There's tax SWAT team guys, that kind of thing.
Right.
So that's my bread and butter, I guess, in the purely just ND, they call it, nondescript stunt world.
Awesome. Consistent work is key, though. That's awesome, and that you were able to you have the look and the natural just ability to do that stuff. Now, I did want to look up some of the other things you've been in, obviously, besides the main 3 that we've already talked about. Like other big things that our listeners, in the horror and pop culture world would like, in sci-fi. You were in from what I understand, you were in The Watchman. You did Watchman.
I was a gay superhero in The Watchman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, I was Hooded Justice. And
That's the one who got caught in the door. Isn't that the one? Oh no, Hooded Justice.
No,
oh
Hooded
yeah, he's
Justice.
the guy with the noose. He carries the noose around.
He's got a
and
noose
he
around his
beats
neck.
up. He
beats
beats
up the comedian.
The comedian, yes.
Because I can walk in and catch him basically raping.
Right.
Over a pool table. So, but Zack Snyder, the director, actually brought in the book, The Watchmen, and showed me, flipped through the pages, and said, "This is why people, the rumor mill says your character is gay," and showed me the couple. And there's not much in there, but it's just kind of people have decided that that's the case.
He was just ran off with it.
Well, it looks like it's probably written that way, but it's not just right out front. So.
But and that's cool. I mean, that is such an iconic.
That is
work. I mean, in the comic world,
it's one of my
huge.
favorite comic book movies ever.
Yeah, I thought it was really great too.
And then you were at the CW show Arrow. You've been on that.
Yes, a lot. Yeah, I've been several characters on Arrow.
Yeah, I noticed that too. You've
yeah.
repeat appearances.
Yeah, a year later, they seem to think it's okay for you to be a completely different person on there, and I think that's great. It works out for me.
And then again, another super. Go back to comics. You were in Smallville as well. X-Men 2, which is probably one of the best X-Men movies of all of them. I mean, that was. Tell us about. I gotta know about X-Men. How that was.
It was exciting because it was, now every other movie is a superhero movie. Right?
Yeah.
And there it was a little bit earlier on, so it's kind of not new ground, but it was essentially an exciting time for them because you think it's going to break out, and they spend a lot of money on these things, and so it was cool to be a part of that. And back in the day, it was. Not knowing which way it was going to go, we didn't know it was going to be a massive, every other movie is a superhero movie.
Exactly. I mean, it's huge now, but at the time, it was still in the infancy of it before the big boom. And then finally, another last comic was Man of Steel. I mean, Superman movie.
Yeah.
So, what was your, stunts again? What was your role in some of these movies that you can talk about?
Well, in the Superman one, it was a pretty small one. I worked like 4 days only, but I was a guard standing inside a spaceship, I think, or some kind of thing. The set wasn't complete, so I couldn't tell what it was. But I'm standing beside Russell Crowe, and some people said an explosion at the door. They broke in, and we got killed. So I basically stood
you were a Kryptonian.
Okay, sure, yeah.
Nerd alert! Look out!
You were on Krypton.
I was basically what I did basically was because I was standing a few feet from Russell Crowe, and he's a rugby guy too. So I stood down and talked rugby with him for about 4 days, which is actually pretty cool.
Awesome. Yeah. And then of course, other people. Warcraft. He was one of the main orcs, and you were telling me yesterday about this really cool about how. Even there were like 6 main orcs that did, and so in the big battle scenes, you're like technically would be in there like 6 or 7 times in one scene.
Yeah, if you did a screen grab and paused it, you could probably I can't pick out which I am, but they filmed it in a way that there'd be about 3 or 4 characters fighting, and they would film that fight, and they'd do that multiple times, and then they'd place them on the screen basically after the fact in editing. So I might be fighting in 3 or 4 different places at one given time on a screenshot.
Would you ever be fighting yourself?
I wouldn't be fighting myself, but that kind of stuff does happen these days. I have actually on Stargate. I actually shot myself. I actually did the phaser and I shot, and then I was the guy who fell. I was the wraith who fell down for that shot.
That's awesome.
Through. I shot myself, and that was pretty cool.
That's pretty awesome.
What an idiot!
Yeah. Hey, that's Hollywood. Hey, what are you gonna do? That's pretty awesome.
I love it. Other than that, I could pick your brain all day about these things. But of course, as a stunt, you probably get asked this a lot. What are some your most memorable stunts and or injuries or close calls that you've had throughout not just one particular movie, but your entire career, stuff that really stands out to you?
I keep coming back to this. It's Freddy versus Jason on that dock. We rehearsed it being there's a barge with a big crane on it, and the cable went from us up to this pulley, and they had these bolt cutters sitting around all the time. And what are the bolt cutters for? Because I was fairly new at this kind of stuff.
Sure.
And it's because when you, on a big ratchet like that, the cable gets caught on something, and then they got to use the bolt cutters to cut you down. And I'm thinking, well, I'm going to be on fire when that happens. And I'll be dangling above the water about 20 feet or something like that. And I just had these images. So the whole time I was doing this, I had this image of, oh, for God's sakes, don't be hanging in the air burning.
That's terrifying.
The water's right there. But that was a big stunt. It was 80 feet through the air. So just the impact on the water was pretty substantial.
Really?
From that.
Imagine.
And, and as it turns out, when we did the stunt fully on fire, my mask kept burning off in the previous stunt burns because the leather strap would just burn off. So they started tying it on with tie wire basically, and they'd twist this thing on super tight, and the silicone kind of an O-ring I guess around the whole thing to keep my face from getting burned. When I hit the water, it moved the mask forward or up my face about an inch, and the silicone went over my mouth, so I couldn't breathe except for through my nose. Then I went into the water, and of course the mask was full of water through the little hole. So I came up to the surface. Safety divers were there, and the guy gets me around the neck kind of thing and starts to drag me in, and I'm fighting like crazy to try to get this mask off so I can breathe, because I haven't breathed for the entire burn since the dock.
You gotta hold your breath.
You gotta hold your breath, and then get in the water, and then you get up, and I'm still holding my breath, and that impact and everything, and then I can't breathe, and I try to breathe, and water comes in my nose, and so I'm flailing, and there's a video afterwards of from the dock, someone showing me fighting like crazy, and the diver yelling at me, don't panic, and I'm thinking, it looks so horrible, like what a rookie, right? It's like freaking out and flailing, but I was trying to get this freaking mask off my face so I could breathe again. He had no idea.
Oh wow, jeez.
Oh, that's great.
I love it. Oh, so we don't want to take up too much of your time. We know we got your Q&As coming up here in a few minutes, about half hour.
Yeah.
So just really quick, what do you have coming down? Is there anything you can talk about? Let people know maybe that they can check out. Anything on the any other cons you're going to, or what's happening with Glenn Ennis?
I don't have anything coming up on cons. It's my very first con right now. This is it. My very first one. Just dipping my toe in the water.
Is this your very, like, are you on a con tour? Is this your legitimate very first con?
My legitimate very first
Holy
con.
shit.
I flew here for this, and I am flying home. This is it. And I have a couple other things coming up that are still in the works for the new year, con-wise, but I'm just kind of getting into this. I've been a busy stunt guy and actor still, and I'm just getting to that point where I think I should kind of make the transition, and I think it's going to be really fun. But movie-wise, I've got a couple of things. We just wrapped Deadpool 2.
Awesome. I meant to ask about that, but so you're coming back. Are you doing
Colossus is there
again?
again? Yeah, a lot of the work was already done, because a lot of my facial expressions and stuff, it's all in the database, right? So I don't have to work too much for that. And also the Predator was a big thing that we filmed this past summer.
There you go. You heard it here, guys.
Yeah, and there's an upgrade Predator that's about 11 feet tall, and someone I don't know sitting at this table might be him. So. And it's not, and it's neither of you guys.
Yeah.
Spoilers. It's not us guys.
Guess what, guys? It's not me. Sorry.
That's incredible. That's so
it's
cool.
like doubling your height, basically. Well, 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, in between there.
Yeah, 230.
250.
250. God damn it.
I just wear it well. Thanks.
Looking good, man.
That's awesome. That's super excited to see Deadpool 2 and Return of Colossus. So you're working that, and the Predator is going to be awesome as well. That'll be a lot of fun. I know our listeners will be checking that out as well. Again, like I said, we don't want to take up much of your time because we know you have your stuff to do. So again, thank you very much for taking the time.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure, guys.
This was awesome. Love the work. Love the movies. And I'm going to try to sweet talk you into signing a few of my stuff before you leave tonight.
Might as well do that.
All right, it's on there. I have record of it now.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Missy.
All right, guys.